My husband's unhinged colleague is convinced they're having an affair. Now she's claiming he got her pregnant. But that's impossible. I don't know your username on this forum, but you've finally given me a reason to respond. I know you read this. Because this is where you were advised to confess to me about the affair with my husband. I tried to find your post, but I couldn't. I'm not going to talk to you in person, but I want to clarify a few things. Yes, I remember perfectly how. We first met at the Christmas party, and you kept trying to pull my husband away to talk to you alone. You pouted so hard when he refused that I thought you were going to start croaking. Remember how all his colleagues were so friendly to me? I remember you approaching us when my husband and I were coming back from my birthday celebration. I'm sure it was a coincidence, but seeing my husband literally jump away from you when you tried to hug him was the best moment of the evening. I know my husband is a catch. Of course I know. I married him and had his children. But what you probably don't know is that his colleagues used to be my colleagues too. You've only been working at the company for a few months. I know how you constantly tried to catch him after meetings. Not just my husband, but other colleagues too. My husband told me everything because you're causing him a lot of trouble. Did you really think he wouldn't tell me how you accidentally sent him your explicit photos twice? Did you really believe you could win him over? You looked at his Instagram and thought, wow, I wish I had a life like that. I just need to lie to his wife about our affair, and he'll be mine. Did you think that if you knocked on my door during a dinner party and handed me printouts of your conversations, I would immediately get furious and file for divorce? I'm sure HR has already spoken to you about your inappropriate behavior and unauthorized access to his personal file. You must have been in shock. Maybe you didn't expect my husband to report you? I don't know what the consequences will be for you, and I don't care. But if you come near me, my husband, our children, or our beautiful home again, I will call the police. A tip for the future: if you're going to fake a conversation, at least remember to erase the wrong number or replace it with a name. A small update: she was fired. I'll write a full update when we decide on our next steps. Thanks for the support. Edited. To be honest, I don't even know what kind of post to look for. Like, should it be a post where she admits she lied to me about a fake affair with my husband, or that she wants to have an affair, or that she genuinely believes they had an affair? I tried to find it. When she handed me the printout, she had a rehearsed apology monologue and mentioned this forum several times. But when I searched for her post that evening, I couldn't find anything. Maybe I was looking in the wrong place, or she deleted it. As for the restraining order, if she shows up again, I'll take care of it. I spoke to a friend who is a police officer. He said there's nothing that can be done for now. If she appears again, then I'll discuss the options with him. For those who are worried about my safety, don't be. The cameras are working, the kids are safe, the dog is home, and my family is nearby. So if I don't reply for a couple of hours, I'll definitely do it later. She said she accessed your husband's personal file. How did she do that? I'll try to explain about his personal file in more detail. Nothing has changed at the company since I left. All employees have their own user accounts. Depending on which department you work in, you have access to certain data. The HR department has an electronic database of employees' personal data. Every time someone accesses an employee's personal file, it's recorded with a digital signature. In the logging system, there are records that she viewed my husband's personal file. I don't know how many times, but she shouldn't have had access to the personal database at all, as she's from the events department, which organizes events. So either someone gave her access, which means she could edit files like on Wikipedia, or it was some kind of system glitch that went unnoticed. Update 1 first. I want to thank everyone who supported me and my husband. Some of you wrote that there's no smoke without fire. Usually I agree with that and could have left such a comment myself. But my husband also read your comments. He asked me to tell you more about some past events. My husband holds a high position in the company in the marketing department, which works closely with the events team. In their field, when working together on a project, big or small, there are always meetings. The bigger the project, the more meetings. My husband worked very closely with a colleague who then went on maternity leave. A woman who was highly recommended by a senior member of the events team took her place. After the new employee completed her training and was fully brought up to speed. Her department had assigned her to a major project. My husband was friendly towards her and always remained professional. Their work meetings were never one-on-one. The project was successful, and then another major project came along. It was during this period that the woman began to act strangely. Shortly before Christmas, she started asking for clarifications after meetings, even though all points had already been discussed in detail. When my husband started redirecting her to her boss, she began suggesting they discuss work matters over coffee, lunch, or dinner multiple times a week, with comments like, "You look great today." And she wrote all of this to my husband through her work email. She met me at the company Christmas party and pouted terribly when she couldn't get my husband alone. A few days later, she sent my husband the first photo via social media. He didn't even notice it until she personally apologized to him. He accepted her apology and only checked the message at home later when I was there. Immediately after sending the photo, she wrote, "Oops, sorry. That wasn't for you." So when he opened the message, there was a photo that she could have deleted before he saw it. A week later, a similar thing happened with another photo on a different platform. Seeing who sent the message, he asked me to open it. The photo was a bit more explicit than the first one. When she apologized, she asked if he had told me about the photos. She said she didn't want me to get the wrong idea, as it was obviously a drunken mistake. They weren't friends on social media, so I don't understand why she thought this was a convincing excuse. Then came my birthday. When she tried to hug my husband, he literally jumped back because her behavior was starting to alarm him. After that, she calmed down a bit and stopped asking to discuss work matters so actively. But then last Monday happened. Update Twash was fired for harassment and a gross violation of professional ethics. Another employee was also suspended due to this situation. He is under investigation. My husband and I were working from home because of the events of last week, so at the time of my last post, I didn't know she had been suspended. Immediately after my husband reported everything to HR on Wednesday, he forwarded the social media messages with proof that he hadn't replied to them and printed out all the work emails he had received from her. The company reacted quickly due to the seriousness of the accusations, but now I can confirm she was fired yesterday. I wasn't told what exactly she said in her defense, but I know for a fact that she didn't make any accusations against my husband. I've already explained a bit about how the HR system works in the comments. The company uses an electronic personnel database, which should only be accessible to HR employees. But one of the ID department employees gave this woman unauthorized access to the system. The system report showed that she had accessed my husband's personal file 34 times. I don't know what exactly she changed in there, but there were so many edits that his file had to be restored from a recent backup. In connection with this, the ID department employee was suspended while an investigation is conducted. I don't have any more details. I don't work there. I'm only retelling what I learned from my husband and former colleagues. The last 48 hours have been crazy, but I'm glad this post has spread to other platforms, as one of the woman's relatives contacted us to apologize for her actions. After exchanging a few messages, we had a long phone call. I won't disclose the details for confidentiality reasons, but with their permission, I can share the following. This woman has fixated on other men before, which led to a restraining order against her for one of them, and she was sent for compulsory treatment. The family believes the cause of this behavior is a traumatic event she witnessed as a child. She's usually stable when she takes her medication. The only problem is that when she feels well, she considers herself completely healthy and stops taking her medication, which leads to relapses. The text conversation she showed me was with her teenage niece, who was unaware of her aunt's mental state. The niece thought it was a joke. She got scared and hung up when we called the number. From the conversation on Wednesday morning, she reported this to the family. Later that day, they found out that the woman had been suspended. The family found the post and my comment about the conversation and got my husband's name from the woman. After confirming the post was about her, they have now sent her to live with other relatives about a 4-hour drive from us. They told us they would contact us immediately if she leaves or disappears from their supervision, especially while the medication hasn't started to take full effect. Yet, for now, We are not planning to file an official report, but we have informed the police about everything. Our police officer friend advised us to do this. Her family knows about this. We will be improving our home security system over the next 2 weeks. The school and daycare know who can and cannot pick up my children, and they have photos of these people. They were also given a photo of this woman with instructions to notify me or my husband immediately if they see her near the school or if she tries to pick up my children. Hopefully, no more updates will be needed. Now I'm going to have a glass of wine, and we can finally, hopefully, get a good night's sleep. Edited. The woman's niece saw my post and recognized the description of the conversation I mentioned in the comments, probably from the part where it said my children and I would be kicked out of the house, as that was the only detail I shared quite explicitly. I don't know what else is going on in their family, as I haven't spoken to her personally. Update 3: we continue to stay in touch with her relative. Her condition is better now, but it will still take time for the medication to fully take effect. It took a lot of effort from her entire family to explain to her why her behavior was unacceptable and why she needed to start taking her medication again. The family is still worried that we might sue, but at this moment, we have no intention of doing so. The niece contacted us and apologized for her role in what happened, but she is very young, so we are not angry with her. The ID employee was fired. I have a little more information now. The woman asked him for access, supposedly to check her own personal file and references. The ID employee complied with the request but forgot to revoke her access. Additionally, he also gave access to several other employees' files. Access has now been revoked for everyone to whom it was granted without authorization. I don't know what the company will do with this employee next, but I assume the matter is currently being discussed with lawyers. The senior employee from the events department who originally recommended this woman for the position also contacted us to apologize. He also had no idea there was a problem until HR spoke with him. We will not be filing a lawsuit against her or the company. We just want to move on with our lives as peacefully as possible. We would have sued if my husband's professional reputation had been damaged or if we were in danger. But we are glad the situation did not escalate. Except that we both have a few more gray hairs. Update 4: was hoping the previous update would be the last, but things got much crazier than we could have imagined. I've tried to write this post over and over, but each time something even more insane happened. I apologize if the text is a bit jumbled. For a while, this whole situation felt like a trashy soap opera. Things kept getting worse and worse, and eventually, it turned into a complete circus. For anyone who hasn't read the previous posts, brief recap. My husband worked with a woman who became obsessed with him and came to our home with fake evidence of their affair. It turned out she was mentally unwell. My husband and I agreed with her older brother, let's call him Owen, who is the father of the niece, the former colleague, let's call her Sarah, was texting that she would live with their aunt and uncle, about a 4-hour drive from us. They were supposed to help her recover and ensure she continued to take her medication until she was well enough to work again and manage her medication herself. Owen promised that his family would contact us if anything significant happened and would let us know if she escaped their supervision. Everything was going well until the end of March. I left my phone in the house and was gardening in the front yard because it was warm. I look up, and Sarah is standing in front of me. She was smiling and was very happy to have found me at home, as she had come by several times before, but our cars weren't in the driveway. Before I could even figure out what to do, she ecstatically announced that she was pregnant and that the father of the child was my husband. I swear, I was so stunned that for a second, my vision blurred. It was obvious she had stopped taking her medication again. Not because she looked unwell. On the contrary, she was well dressed and looked well groomed. But she still sincerely believed in some forbidden romance with my husband. She went on to say that their love child was due in mid-June. And since I had been a wonderful wife and supported my husband despite his infidelity, we needed to get along so I could be a part of their child's life. She expressed hope that I wouldn't hold a grudge against this baby because of their love. All of this would have sounded wonderful if even a drop of what she said was true. Let me repeat. There is no way my husband can be the father of her child. He simply doesn't physically have the time for affairs, for kids, a job, a shared social life, his hobbies at home, plus our shared hobby. Unless he's cheating on his way to and from work, there's just no other possibility. Besides, based on her pregnancy timeline, she would have gotten pregnant before she even met my husband. Yes, he had a small part in the hiring process by reviewing her resume, but they only met in person after she started working. As soon as she left, I found a bunch of missed calls from Owen on my phone, messages, and voicemails asking me to call him back urgently. I immediately called him to get the details before calling my husband. Owen confirmed that his aunt had accidentally let it slip when she was telling him about Sarah's condition and revealed everything that had happened. I learned that they had an argument, and the following came to light. As soon as Sarah arrived at her aunt and uncle's, she confessed to them that she was pregnant. Together, they decided that she would not take antipsychotics until the baby was born. Sarah promised to stay away from us until the baby arrived, but she firmly stated that my husband was the father. The day before she came to my house, she decided it was time to let us know. She's a rather curvy woman, so perhaps I just didn't notice her belly at 4 or 5 months pregnant when she showed up at our house. But honestly, at that moment, I was too shocked by her appearance to think about it. Anyway, my observation skills clearly failed me. According to Owen, their aunt and uncle were convinced that my husband was the father of the child from a one-night stand. They thought he just didn't want to admit his infidelity to me, and Sarah became obsessed as a result. But apparently, in their eyes, Sarah could do no wrong, so they took her at her word and didn't even think to check the information with Owen. All those updates we had received from them earlier turned out to be just empty promises. Owen was just as upset as we were. He understood perfectly well that his sister was sinking into a delusional obsession, and the family that was supposed to support her was just letting it happen. I told my husband everything. He was, of course, very alarmed and concerned for our family's safety. We filed a police report and decided we could file for a restraining order, but only after his non-paternity was proven. Right now, it's just a situation of her word against his, as my husband can't provide proof that he never touched her. The next time Sarah appeared was in early April. We saw her approaching the house, sent the kids upstairs, and calmly went outside to talk to her. I didn't want to talk to her where there were no cameras. I didn't want her near my children or for her to know the layout of our house. She asked to be let inside, stroking her now noticeable belly. I firmly said no. My husband said he wanted a paternity test, which offended her because she had never cheated on him. But to prove the child was indeed his, she agreed to a test after the baby was born. As much as this situation infuriated me, you can understand her point. It's her body after all. I admit, if I had seen her for the first time at that moment, I would have seriously doubted my husband. She was convincing, completely sane, and confident in her words. The scariest part is how sincerely she believed that my husband was the father of her child. I've encountered mental illness before, but I've never seen anything like this. She seemed so genuine until she started asking for money for child support and baby supplies, despite living with relatives in another city and being unemployed. Because, everyone knew about the affair. She wanted to live separately by the time the baby was born. We refused and told her, if the test confirms paternity, then we'll help. At the end of April, my husband's parents called. Even though they knew the whole situation, they cautiously asked my husband if there was any chance the child could be his. After getting a firm no, they explained that they were sitting at home when they suddenly heard a knock on the door. It was Sarah. She decided to introduce herself to them because she wanted them to be involved in the child's life after he was born. My parents-in-law already knew who she was and what had happened. We had given them strict instructions not to anger her because we don't know what she's capable of, only that she's pregnant and not on her medication. My husband was upset and worried, but he understood why his parents had to ask that question at least once. His categorical no was enough for them. We don't know how she found their address. Maybe she was following us or saw my husband's old address in his personal file. We talked to the children to make sure no stranger had approached them. They said no one had. We also checked if anyone had asked them to keep any secrets. Everyone said no, even the youngest ones. In any case, the children are never alone. A week later, Sarah showed up at our house when we were having a barbecue with friends. The kids were at my husband's parents', and we were finally able to relax a bit with friends. We had just started briefly telling our friends about the recent events when suddenly she walked through our kitchen right into the backyard, as if she owned the place. She was holding her rounded belly and started introducing herself to everyone. Our friends saw her for the first time, but she didn't stay long. My husband quickly escorted her out of the house, and I followed him. All our attempts to remain calm so as not to trigger another mental breakdown in her collapsed at that moment. A heated argument ensued. We explained to her that she couldn't just show up at our house, that my husband could not possibly be the father of her unborn child because they had never been intimate. They had no relationship whatsoever. He owed her nothing. My husband expressed all his frustration to her. At that moment, Sarah seemed to break. There was no aggression on our part, but for a second she looked confused and shocked, and then she quickly left. After she left, we called Owen and told him what happened. He went to look for her and found her late in the evening. After that, I started the process of selling our house. I need a place that will become a real fortress for us. Even though I love our home, the realization that Sarah could appear at any time has robbed me of my sense of safety and peace. My husband and I discussed the possibility of expediting a restraining order, but we didn't want to provoke another mental breakdown. After the barbecue, I was told that some of our friends had started to doubt my husband and ask questions, trying to find inconsistencies in his story. I understand their doubts. My husband does too. Sarah was so convinced he was the father of her child that people decided, well, something must have happened at least once, and I'm just naively believing my husband. I don't blame them for gossiping. If something similar happened to people I know, I would probably think the same thing. But we were lucky that our close friends and relatives were not among these gossipers. Sarah appeared again when we were not home. We were visiting relatives. The camera recorded her looking into the windows of our house. At that moment, she was clearly not in her right mind. She stood in front of the house for a long time, saying something incoherent to herself, and looked paranoid. Seeing this, I immediately accepted an offer on our house and chose a beautiful new home in a gated community. We are now in the process of moving. Recently, Owen called us and said that Sarah had given birth to a baby, and the baby looked a lot like her ex-boyfriend. He asked if my husband still wanted to do a DNA test because it was obvious the child wasn't his. My husband agreed because he wanted to close this chapter for good and remove any possible doubts on my part. I told him I never doubted him, and it's true. Yes, I was scared by the situation, and behind closed doors, we had many emotional conversations due to the immense stress, but never because I might have suspected my husband of being the father of this child. We also decided that the test was necessary so that Sarah couldn't demand child support from us later. Sarah's aunt and uncle admitted they were wrong, and Owen gave them a stern talking to for enabling her behavior. They had a difficult but necessary conversation. According to Owen, when they realized what had actually happened, they were terribly ashamed and asked him to pass on their apologies to us. Owen took time off work and will be staying with them for a while. After Sarah gave birth, her brother, aunt, and uncle gave her an ultimatum. Either she takes her medication daily in front of them and doesn't try to contact us, or they will have her committed to a psychiatric hospital, and her newborn baby will stay under Owen's care until her condition stabilizes. Sarah agreed to take the medication. The DNA test results came back, and my husband is not the father. The look on my husband's face at that moment was priceless. So much relief and happiness. The last 6 months have been insane, but now things have finally calmed down. As far as I know, Sarah is doing better, although she is struggling with the responsibilities of being a new mom. Owen is trying to convince her to contact her ex-boyfriend. Sarah is gradually beginning to realize that there was no affair with my husband. The medication is finally starting to work. I gave Owen some things for the baby to give to Sarah, since I was packing things for the move anyway. I may have missed some events. If you need any clarification, just ask. I'm glad our life is gradually returning to normal. Comments where the author replied, "Did the police get involved? We are proceeding with filing for a restraining order. I'm sorry. My post was too long. and I rewrote it several times, so I probably missed a few important points. We reported every incident to the police. However, most of the time, Sarah didn't do anything. She just talked. No threats, no violence, just strange conversations. Besides, my husband wanted to completely clear his name first, and for that, he needed the DNA test. A restraining order would have complicated getting the test done quickly, and it was important for him to prove to me that he hadn't cheated. Have you ever dealt with a mentally ill person who shows up unexpectedly at the most inappropriate moments? In such a situation, the worst thing you can do is panic, because panic prevents you from thinking clearly. It's best to remain calm and avoid direct confrontation. We did snap once when she showed up at our barbecue. This woman was absolutely convinced that she and my husband loved each other and that her child was 100% his. And yes, of course, I am concerned about the fate of an innocent child. I have 4 children, and I can't even imagine what it's like to be a new mother and mentally ill at the same time. I wouldn't have given her anything. She doesn't actually know the things are from us. I say this because it would never even cross her mind that after everything that happened, we would give her something from the heart. I told Owen and his wife that I don't want her to know who the things are from. They can tell her they bought them on sale or that a friend knew his sister was pregnant. Most of the baby items are in perfect condition, and apart from slightly worn boxes, they look brand new. Why didn't you do a DNA test during the pregnancy? We know that a blood test can be done during pregnancy to establish paternity, but Sarah refused and wanted to wait until the baby was born. We didn't want to force a mentally ill pregnant woman to do something she didn't want to do. We were afraid she might harm herself or us. Why did your husband feel relieved? He thought that I still doubted him, that somewhere deep down, I allowed for the possibility that it was true, that she was his mistress, and he had specifically gotten her a job at the company to spend time with her. You know, the classic plot of a bad soap opera. Well, that's all. I'm waiting for your opinion on this whole story in the comments. Personally, only one thing bothered me here. The girl was pregnant. And how can a pregnant woman take such medications? I mean, I understand that the instructions might allow pregnant women to take them, but personally, if I were pregnant, I would be afraid to do so. But then how do you prevent something like this from happening? It's unclear. Should the relatives have been watching her, or what? Anyway, what do you think? Thank you for watching this video to the end. Watch our previous video, which you'll see right here. Be sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and good luck!